In Pirates of Caribbean, Jack Sparrow says, "You've clearly never been to Singapore," implying that he has. How likely is it that a Caribbean career pirate from the golden age of piracy would travel to Southeast Asia? I know that Asia had its own homegrown piracy scene, such as Qingxi, but the crux of my question is whether there'd be any notable interaction between Caribbean piracy and Asia. Also, I understand Pirates of Caribbean is hardly based on historical fact, given that it features cursed skeleton warriors. It's just what had me wonder about the question. Edit, please don't give me gold. Send that money to Médecins Sans Frontières. User Jace Cool Tiger answers, so I have no memory of seeing this movie, though my wife says we saw it in the theaters, but in any case, it's not likely Jack would have been to Singapore, because during the early 1700s-ish, when the movie is set, Singapore wasn't really a thing. It was the property of the Sultan of Malacca Sultanate of Johor, and it wasn't until 1819 with the arrival of the British East India Company that the islands started to grow in prosperity. That said, though, there's no reason not to think Jack may have been to East Asia in general, or visited/traded with the Dutch settlements in Indonesia. I believe that the character was involved with John Company in some way before becoming a pirate, and the company had trade interests in East Asia during that time period. Many sailors of the time would have taken posts in merchant ships regardless of nationality, so it wouldn't be out of the range of possibility for Jack to have sailed there in a Dutch hull. Or he could have served on a voyage of exploration. The English mariner and sometime privateer William Dampier made several voyages of exploration to East Asia and Australia, starting originally as a privateer in Virginia then in the Caribbean, around the time of Potk. Edited to add, a lot of the removed comments, which I can see because I'm a moderator, are really confusing the distinction between a pirate and a privateer. A privateer was a ship captain or master who had a letter of marque from a government, allowing them as a private citizen to legally prey on enemy shipping without being subject to the issuing government's laws regarding piracy. The more rare letter of reprisal was issued to a captain whose goods may have been stolen by a representative of a foreign nation, allowing them to do the same in reprisal. The U.S. Constitution allows Congress to issue letters of marque and reprisal, though the Paris Declaration of 1856 legally renounced privateering. The U.S. is not a signatory to that treaty, but hasn't commissioned any privateers since 1815 anyhow. Unsurprisingly, many nations regarded foreign privateers as pirates in any case, but there is a distinction in law. Captain William Kidd, for example, sailed under protection of a letter of marque, though he exceeded its authority and was convicted of murder and 5 counts of piracy in what was essentially a political trial. Edit the second, so I probably shouldn't try to answer a popular thread like this while also trying to be at the park with my 5-year-old, because I thought I wrote this a bit more clearly. The example above of Dampier is what I had in mind as a direct analogy to Captain Jack. William Dampier was a privateer captain and later commissioned officer born in Somerset in 1651, who joined a privateer crew in the Caribbean in 1679. He was part of raids on Spanish possessions on the west coast of New Spain, now Mexico, then was part of an expedition that crossed the Pacific to the East Indies and returned eventually to England, having circumnavigated the globe. I'm sourcing this mainly from the Social History of English Seamen, 1485 to 1649, edited by Cheryl A. Fury, and Royal Tars, The Lower Deck of the Royal Navy, 875-1850 by Brian Lavery. Sorry it's vague, but there's not a lot to be said about the accuracy of what is after all a fictional, and over-the-top, series of pirate movies that are based on a theme park ride.